Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Wednesday. I hope the day is going well wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. It is match day, of course. Well, actually, sorry. I say it's match day, but right here in the UK, it's not technically match day because I'm recording this on Wednesday. And the game against Bournemouth later on doesn't kick off until 3:30 a.m. UK time. So that is, of course, Thursday if you're going to be picky about it. But still, exciting times. Arsenal's pre-season properly gets underway in the United States in just a few hours' time. We're, of course, going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show. I'm going to try and do a predicted 11. It's going to be wrong, hopelessly wrong, I imagine, because it's impossible at this stage to know who's going to be starting. There's going to be so many changes, but it's felt like so long since I've done one that I just wanted to do one anyway. And then we can all have a bit of a laugh at how wrong or right I am a little bit later on. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Eddie Nketiah and those links to Marseille that just continue to get stronger and stronger. Going to talk a little bit about Chido, Obi, Martin. Got lots of comments and questions from you guys as well. So let's start, though, on this man, shall we? Eddie Nketiah. I'm sure you've seen in the last 24 hours or so many reports about that Marseille interest. There's been reports from France that it's close, an agreement has been reached, that Eddie's agreed personal terms, that Arsenal and Marseille are set to agree on a deal. Lots of stuff been going on. So my information on it is that, yes, 100% Marseille want Eddie Nketiah, and there are talks going on with Arsenal. But all this talk about things being agreed, like I can't say from the players' side, he might well have agreed some sort of personal terms, or the agent might well have agreed some sort of personal terms with Marseille. But from an actual transfer point of view, as it stands, certainly my information on it is that we are not even close to being for it to be at the close to being done stage. The two teams are way off when it comes to some sort of an agreement. Marseille obviously want Eddie Nketiah. Arsenal are quite happy, might not be the right word, but they would let Eddie Nketiah go should a good offer arrive this summer that they feel is good value for money for a striker who they've developed well, who scored goals in the Premier League, who, if he doesn't go, they will use a fair bit next season as well. So Arsenal quite rightly want good money for Eddie Nketiah. But can Marseille get anywhere close to that sort of number? I mean, as it stands right now, the answer is no. And that's why, in terms of what I'm hearing on this one, is that all the talk about a move being close is incorrect at this stage. Now, it might happen like that, click of the fingers, and suddenly Marseille might come up with a number that is suitable for Arsenal. There's lots of talk that they're actually pressing for a loan deal with an obligation to buy, which, again, I think would probably just about be agreeable to Arsenal, but that obligation to buy would need to be a very good figure. And again, it would need to be an obligation, not just a purchase option, because otherwise you're just going to kick the can down the road for another year and then you're going to be in the same situation. I kind of feel like it's very similar to Albert Samley Conga, which I imagine, I hope I'm wrong, but I imagine Arsenal might find themselves in a bit of a situation this time next summer when Sevilla haven't taken up that purchase option and they're again scrambling around looking for takers. But the thing is with Eddie, and I've said this so many times, they will use Eddie. Arsenal will use Eddie. It's very similar to Emil Smith Rowe. Arsenal they're not pushing them out the door. Ideally, Mikel Arteta would want to keep Eddie Nketiah, and ideally, Mikel Arteta would want to keep Emil Smith Rowe. But, that's from a footballing side of things. From a business side of things, Arsenal do need to make sales this year. And those are the type of players that, should a good offer arrive, that Arsenal would listen to it. But as far as I'm aware, Eddie Nketiah to Marseille is not close to being done at the moment. It might be at some point, but it's going to take Marseille to get a lot closer to the sort of numbers that Arsenal want for any sort of agreement to become closer. It's quite interesting that in the last 24 hours, Arsenal pushed Eddie a lot on their website, on their social channels. He's done an interview. They put him all over the sort of pictures from the training camp, which maybe I'm just being a bit like, putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 5. But it just felt a bit of a message there in response to all of the reports that it was close to being done. Suddenly, Arsenal are sort of putting Eddie front and centre of their pre-season tour to the United States. It felt like a bit of a message for me, but that's the latest as far as I'm aware. That yes, Marseille want Eddie. Yes, they are talking to Arsenal about trying to get a deal done, but the two clubs are way off in terms of what Arsenal would want for that deal to happen. And we'll have to wait and see now as the weeks progress that whether Marseille can get closer to what Arsenal would like for Eddie. But let me know your thoughts on it all in the comments below, as always. Okay, if you're looking on YouTube here, you can see 12 very happy young Arsenal players. This is the scholarship intake that has been announced. And of course, there's one player not in that picture who should have been or would have been had he agreed to sign up on his terms, and that was Chido Obi Martin. So this is very clear evidence that he is no longer part of Arsenal and will be moving on to someone else very, very soon. Of course, there's lots of clubs who are interested in him. Manchester United are at the front of the queue, but he's visited clubs in Germany, Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund. Other clubs in England are interested in him and have been making offers as well. We've now just got to wait and see where he ends up, but it's not going to be Arsenal. And that was very, very apparent after this pitch yesterday when Arsenal announced the 12 players who have signed their scholarship forms, and Chido's not in them. So I'm not going to say any more because I've already had my say on the whole situation a few times now. So there's no point going over old ground again. But that's the latest when it comes to Chido. We've just got to wait and find out who it is he signs for. And there you go. If you're watching on YouTube, match day. That old Arsenal graphic on their social media is back. Next, Arsenal versus Bournemouth tonight at the Dignity Health Sports Park, 3:30 a.m. UK time. Kickoff. Good luck to you guys if you're going to get up to watch that. I'm not. I'm going to have to watch it once I do wake up. Yeah, we'll certainly be discussing it all in tomorrow's show, but I'm not sure I'll be dragging myself out of bed at 3:30 a.m. to watch this one live, but I will certainly catch up on it afterwards as well. And it's going to be really interesting to see how it goes. You know, Arsenal have been working very, very hard, not just since they arrived in the United States, but before that at London Colney, before that at Marbella, all geared up to get themselves off to a good start. There's obviously got a bit of a mix and match squad over in the States for the tour because so many senior players are not there. Some of them will be arriving in a few days' time, too late for this game, of course, and then some of them won't be arriving until after the tour. So we've got lots of youngsters over there. I'm sure we'll see plenty of them tonight in this game. I'm really looking forward to seeing how it goes. This is the predicted 11 that I have gone for tonight's game. Now, it's going to be wrong. It is 100% going to be wrong. I'm not pretending this is going to be right, but I just wanted to play a little bit of a game to see how wrong I'm going to be. So this is what I've gone for. I've gone with Carl Hein in goal. I'm going with Ben White as the right back. I'm then having a centre-back partnership of Timber and Aidan Heaven, the young 17-year-old left-sided central defender. These two played together in the first half against Bournemouth, and I wouldn't be surprised if Mikel sticks with it. Now, of course, since that Bournemouth game, the behind closed doors game at London Colney, Jakub Kiwior has returned, Alexander Zinchenko has returned, so they are options. But I'm presuming that because they haven't done anywhere near as much training as everyone else, that we might see them get half an hour or so in the second half. I'm not sure they'll start the game. So that's why I'm sticking with Heaven as a centre-back, and then I'm going Lewis Skelly as the left back. I think he played that role a little bit in the game against Bournemouth. Obviously, like I said, he might go with Kiwior or Zinchenko. It just depends how fit they are and whether the medical staff think they're ready to start a game or not. But this is when Arsenal are really trying to step up their preparations now, and I don't think they'll take any sort of risk on a player who is considered even sort of 60-70% fit at this stage. They want to make sure they don't pick up any injury. So I'm going to go with Lewis Skelly as the left back for the starting 11. Then I'm going to go in the midfield, Partey, Odegaard, and Vieira. I'm pretty confident that's probably what that's going to be, unless someone has picked up a knock that I don't know about. Obviously, Emil Smith-Rowe is available as well. He came on in the second half in the game against Bournemouth, and it wouldn't surprise me if that's the case again tonight. Then I'm going up front. I'm going with Eddie playing as a central striker, and then Jesus on the right and Nelson on the left. Again, like Kiwior and Zinchenko, we've got Leandro Trossard back now, who wasn't available for the Bournemouth game, so he could come into the equation. But again, I'm kind of feeling like we might see him in the second half rather than starting. So that is my hopelessly wrong predicted 11 for tonight's game against Bournemouth. Carl Hein, Ben White, Jurrien Timber, Aidan Heaven, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Thomas Partey, Martin Odegaard, Fabio Vieira, Gabriel Jesus, Reece Nelson, and Eddie Nketiah. As I was saying, in response to all the transfer links with Eddie Nketiah that we've seen recently, Arsenal plastered him all over the place yesterday, I thought, on their social channels and on their website. He did a really good interview on the website here, and these are just some of the quotes from, if you're watching on YouTube, I've got the quotes on the screen now. If you listen on podcasts, this is what he had to say about pre-season. He talked about the youngsters that are there at the moment and how beneficial this summer could be for them as well, considering he's been in that position not so long ago. He said pre-season is really good for a lot of the lads who haven't trained or played with us to show that much, to show what they can do. It gives people opportunities to show themselves and get fit. Hopefully they can take them. It's a platform, even for us now, to make our mark and start playing games regularly and to get fit. I think there are a lot of examples of players who did well in pre-season and gone on to play and have minutes in the first team. So it's a really good chance. I know what it's like for the young kids coming through, so I'm just trying to make them feel as comfortable as possible. We have a really good group of guys. Everyone is really nice and welcoming and tries to make everyone feel good. I think the coaches do a really good job too. At dinner, they mix up the table so everyone sits with different people and can interact. And the team activities we do allow you to get closer. You're spending much more time together and you don't have the escape of going back home or to your family. So you mix up and socialize a lot more, which is really nice. And that last bit, I've talked about that a lot. And Mikel, and the way he does that in pre-season, he rotates the tables where everyone sits each day. So no one sits together all the time. And that's why they put so much emphasis in pre-season and squad building and team bonding and all that sort of stuff. And Eddie's right. This is a really good opportunity for so many youngsters. I know we talk about Ethan a lot over all the other youngsters and Miles as well, to be honest, but certainly Ethan, because there's a real opportunity here, well, for both of them to make a big impact in this summer tour because they're going to get minutes. And if they can make an impact, then they give themselves a real good chance of pushing themselves even closer to that first team for the new season because they are right on the cusp of it. There's no doubt about it. And we've seen youngsters, Eddie talks about it, who have made their mark. I remember I think it was when Eddie sort of made his breakthrough as well. In 2017, I was on the tour in Australia and I was there for the games again in Sydney when Reece Nelson just came on. He played right back. It was under Arsene Wenger. He played right back in those games and he was absolutely sensational. And he just really, and then he earned himself a starting spot in the Emirates Cup once they came back. And it was his real sort of driving force to get him into the first team picture. And he really took that opportunity. So you can do it. If Reece can do it, Ethan can do it. I remember Jack Wilshere did it as well when he first came through as a real young player. He really starred in pre-season and that kicked him on to make an impressive, he just dominated that season when he came into the team as a kid as well. So it can happen. And I thought it was a good interview. If you haven't seen it yet or read it, all of it, then head over to arsenal.com and you can see the full interview with Eddie. But he said some really good stuff, I thought. Right, moving on to some of your questions and comments now. Jaswant's get in touch, says, hey, Charles, who do you think is our Nico Williams alternative? Neto or Sane? Rafinha could be fantastic. But if you look at like alternatives, it could be Rashford. And would you take a chance at Osimhen if he's available at 80 million or wait for Isaac and Sesko next summer? In terms of the Nico Williams alternative, I've always felt, and again, this is just a hunch, that it wouldn't surprise me that later on in a window, if we suddenly see Arsenal going back in for Pedro Neto again. We know he's a player that Arsenal like and have watched extensively. I mean, Rafinha's in the same situation. And if Barcelona do sign Nico Williams, then perhaps Rafinha suddenly becomes available and he is a player that Arsenal like and have tried to sign before and who Eddie's got a very good relationship with. So that it could be that they just turn to those sort of players. Obviously, we know that Nico Williams is probably first choice when it comes to signing in a wide attacking player this summer. But unfortunately, Barcelona do appear to be in the driving seat for this one. But if there's any way they can't get that deal done, then maybe Arsenal will test the waters and try and get a deal done for it. And I do still expect that they will sign a wide attacker at some point this summer, whether it be Williams, Neto, Rafinha, or anyone else. In terms of Osimhen, would I take a chance? I mean, just the fact you're saying take a chance, I think if you're laying down 80 million, you don't want to take a chance on anyone. I mean, Osimhen should guarantee you goals because he's an excellent goal scorer. He's shown you that before. But if Arsenal don't want him, then there's no point laying down that sort of money for him. It's all, we can always say, would we take a chance? But ultimately, it's down to Mikel Arteta and Edu, isn't it? Whether they want to take a chance. And, Osimhen is available this summer. As of yet, no one has gone close to what Napoli want for him. Whether they drastically reduce that fee towards the end of the window to allow them to get some money in that they can reinvest, we'll have to wait and see. If that does happen, it looks like PSG could be in the driving seat for Osimhen. I mean, I just want Arsenal to get who they want to sign. I don't want them to just pivot away and sign someone just for the sake of it. And I don't think they will. I'd be very, very surprised if they did that sort of thing. So that's just the main thing. When it comes to signing a forward, a striker, whoever, I just don't want Arsenal to sign someone just for the sake of it, because we've been there and done that before when it comes to Arsenal, and it never works out well. And the good thing is with the new setup and the way they handle their recruitment, I just don't think they were going to fall into that trap again because they're too smart for that. Here's one for Aurora Freak, says, hope your son is doing fine. He is doing fine. Thank you very much, everyone. So many messages in the comments yesterday about my son and wishing him well. He is okay. Well, he's all right. He's downstairs on the sofa at the moment. He still won't walk on it. His ankle is still the size of a golf ball. We are on Wednesday. We are 9 days away from flying to Portugal now. So just got ice on it all the time and hoping that he can get his confidence back to start walking and the swelling can go down a bit by next Friday so that he's okay when we do go on holiday. But he's doing all right. He's quite happy in himself. So thank you very much for your messages. You said with Timber, I think he'll start the preseason games at right centre back, down to the fact that Saliba, Gabriel, and Tomiyasu aren't on the tour. At the beginning of the season, he probably will be the left back because Tommy is injured and Calafiori will be eased in. His flexibility will be so important for us this season. Have a nice day. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think you're probably right. As I was putting my predicted 11 today, I've got him playing as a right-sided centre back at the moment, and he might well start the left. He was doing an interview yesterday with some of the journalists who are out there. Kaya Kainak interviewed him. I retweeted it yesterday if you want to go and find that interview. And he said a few things about his versatility and where he might be playing. This is what he had to say. He said, I've played everywhere in the back, to be fair. Last preseason, I started a lot as left back and I enjoyed it as well. So I'm happy to play there. I spoke about it with Ben White as well. I think it's good to be versatile just to play more positions. You're also able to get more minutes then, I think. And the coach can put you in more places. It's nice for him as well. And I'm just hoping to play anywhere. I think competition for places is good and it's good for the team. At the end of the day, you want to win prizes and you need everyone for that. So I think it's fun and good for everyone to lift each other up. So yeah, I mean, the great thing about Timber and most Arsenal signings, and that's why Mikel puts so much emphasis on it when he does sign players, he wants them to be versatile. He doesn't want them just to be able to play one position. And with Timber, you've got a defender there who can play right back, left back, centre back. And that's a fantastic position for Arsenal to be in. Here's one from Nasri Ificent. Says, hello, Charles. Question regarding Zinchenko. Could he sign for Girona this window? He's changed his agents. He has, yes. Girona has other Ukrainian players and is part of the City group. He knows pretty well. For me, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I don't know. It's obviously a hypothetical type situation. I think how do you pronounce their striker? Dobrik, the Girona striker who scored so many goals last season. I think he's on his way to Atletico Madrid. So there's going to be one less Ukrainian there for Zinchenko to team up with. And I wouldn't be in any sort of rush to let Zinchenko go. I think if Calafiori, if when Calafiori signs, then probably one defender will probably leave. I still think that will be Kivior, even though I wouldn't be pushing Kivior out the door very quickly, I have to say, because I think he's a very good player. There's actually a good point in here, sort of following on from that, when he said, I think the signing Marino would, and this is from Sam in Nigeria, says, I think the signing of Marino would solidify Rice as a DM. I think this would open up a lot of scenarios for midfield too, as the game states would require. I'm also of the opinion that Kivior stays. There would be a lot more games to play this season. Our centre-backs would definitely need the rotation. Seeing as Tomiyasu struggles to stay fit, we need the numbers, and it's not like Kivior is a massive downgrade from Gabriel and left centre-back. I hope we get Neto too. And that's kind of, when I'm talking about either Zinchenko as Nazareth says, or Kivior, it's a tough one because the Tomiyasu injury proneness, if that's a word, does need to be taken into account, I suppose. And if you let one of those two go and then Tomiyasu continues to get injured throughout the season, then you're scrambling around for defenders. I still think the most likely scenario is one will go, and I still think that one will be Kivior, but just because of the scale of interest from clubs in Italy in him. I think there's a bigger market for him than there is for Zinchenko. So I still think he probably will, but I wouldn't be rushing to let him go, I have to say. And I agree, the signing of Marino would be interesting, because he does look more of a left eight option than the six. And so you think if he does come in, then Rice would probably play as the six. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see how the season progresses and how Thomas Partey plays early on as well. If Thomas Partey can stay fit, because if he can, then there's no absolute given that Declan Rice suddenly becomes a six. Because if Thomas is fit and playing well, I mean, there's barely any better six in the world than Thomas Partey when he's fit and healthy. And so if he does get through this summer unscathed and he looks really, really sharp going into the new season, then for me, Thomas Partey starts as a number six, even if Moreno signs and you just play Declan Rice as a number 8 alongside Martin Odegaard. So lots of good options there if Moreno does sign, but he hasn't signed yet. We'll have to wait and see on that one. And that's it from me, everyone, today. Thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate it, as always, whether you're watching here on YouTube or you're listening via the podcast platforms. I'll be back tomorrow reacting to that game against Bournemouth. If you've watched that game and you want to get included in tomorrow's show, come back in the morning after you've watched it. Give me your thoughts on what you've seen, who impressed you, who didn't impress you, anything like that. And I'll pull them together and get them included in tomorrow's show. Until then, have a fantastic day, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.